Maya had been waiting for this evening for weeks. Her days had blurred into long hours at work, cold coffee, and lonely nights scrolling through old pictures of her and Arjun. Smiling, happy, close. Tonight, finally, was meant to bring them back to that. A cozy dinner in their small Chicago apartment, dim lights, soft music, and the space to remember why they fell in love. She had even worn the maroon dress Arjun once said made her look like poetry in motion. Her heart fluttered as she lit the last candle, imagining the moment he'd walk in, wrap his arms around her, and whisper, "I've missed you." But when the knock came and she opened the door, her heart stumbled. Arjun stood there, handsome in his usual careless way, but not alone. Standing next to him was another man, tall, relaxed, with kind eyes and a smile that felt strangely familiar. "Hope it's okay," Arjun said, stepping in without hesitation. "This is Kabir, my closest friend. He's visiting from Toronto, and I thought it'd be fun." Maya's smile stretched politely, but inside, her hopes quietly folded. Kabir extended his hand, warm and easy. "I've heard a lot about you," he said gently, eyes lingering on hers for a second longer than expected. Something in his voice, maybe the calm confidence, made her pause. Dinner began awkwardly. Arjun talked fast, updating Kabir about life, work, and people Maya didn't know. She poured wine, smiled when expected, but felt like a background, character in her own evening. Still, Kabir noticed her. When she spoke, he listened. When she laughed softly at a joke, he caught it. And when she refilled his glass, their hands brushed just briefly, enough to send a quiet current through her chest. He wasn't flirtatious, not bold, but he was present, and in a way that felt rare. Arjun, meanwhile, scrolled through his phone between bites, half laughing at texts from co-workers. It wasn't the first time Maya had felt this distance growing between them, but tonight it felt sharper. Because now, there was someone else seeing what Arjun no longer noticed. After dessert, when Arjun stepped out to take a call, Maya and Kabir were left alone. The silence was thick, but not uncomfortable. She stood by the kitchen counter, pretending to tidy up, while Kabir leaned against the doorway, watching her with a quiet curiosity. "You two seem solid," he said, his tone unreadable. Maya looked at him, then away. "We used to be," she admitted, her voice softer than she intended. He nodded, not pushing. And in that moment, she felt a strange, aching gratitude for being seen, even by a stranger. When Arjun returned, laughing into his phone, the spell broke. Kabir stepped back, polite again, and Maya smiled like everything was fine. But something had shifted. Not loud or obvious, but quietly, deeply. A feeling she hadn't expected. Not for a guest. Not for a man she had just met. And yet, as she cleared the plates and listened to the two men talk about their shared past, Maya couldn't stop thinking about that look Kabir had given her. Not desire, not flirtation. Something else. Something like understanding. As the evening came to an end and the wine bottle emptied, Maya found herself wondering, what if tonight was never meant to be about fixing what was broken, but discovering what was quietly waiting to be found? Kabir had a presence Maya couldn't ignore. He was quiet, but not shy, calm, but not cold. As the evening moved on, she realized something unusual. He listened, truly listened, When she spoke, he didn't rush to respond or talk over her. He gave her space, looked her in the eye, and waited as if every word she said mattered. And it had been a long time since someone made her feel that way. Arjun, on the other hand, was warm, but distracted. He kept checking his phone, texting, someone from work, and talking more to Kabir than to her. Maya tried to stay in the moment, smiling as the two friends shared old college stories and inside jokes, but a quiet sadness pressed against her chest. She had missed this chance to reconnect with Arjun. This was supposed to be their night. Yet the more she watched him drift, the more Kabir began to feel like the only real conversation in the room. As the night deepened, the city lights outside glowed through the windows like stars caught in glass. Arjun got up suddenly, saying he had to take an important work call. Maya stayed behind with Kabir, alone on the small balcony with the soft breeze brushing against her arms. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was strangely comforting. It was the kind of silence you fall into when you don't feel the need to fill it. Kabir looked out at the street below, then at her. "You look a little lost," he said gently. His voice was low, kind, but it caught her off guard. She glanced at him, her eyes tired. "I guess I am," she admitted. "Do you ever feel like the person you love doesn't really see you anymore?" She didn't expect him to understand, but he did. He nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. "Yeah," he said after a pause. "I used to feel that way. Until I realized some connections don't fade, they just get buried under noise. But they're still there, waiting." Maya swallowed hard, her throat tight. There was something about the way he spoke, slow, honest, not trying to impress her, that made her heart ache in ways she couldn't explain. She wasn't falling for him. That would be too fast, too careless. But in that moment, she felt something, soft and deeply human, like someone had pulled back a curtain and let in real air. Her guard, chipped from months of feeling invisible, cracked just a little more. She wanted to say something, maybe thank him, maybe ask what he saw when he looked at her. But before she could speak, the door slid open, and Arjun returned. He was laughing, phone still in hand, completely unaware of the moment he had just stepped into. Kabir moved away from her then, slowly, almost like he didn't want to disturb the quiet space they had just shared. Maya smiled at Arjun, her face calm, but inside she was somewhere else entirely. Something had shifted, not loudly but deeply. The way Kabir had looked at her, the way he had spoken to her without trying to fix anything, just see her. It stayed with her long after the balcony door closed. That night, as they all sat in the living room pretending things were normal, Maya kept replaying those few minutes in her head. Not because Kabir said anything shocking, but because he made her feel like she wasn't alone in her emptiness. And maybe that's what she had been needing all along. Not grand gestures or apologies. Just someone who made her feel real again. The night grew quieter, but Maya's heart felt louder than ever. After the laughter faded and the wine glasses sat half empty on the coffee table, Arjun fell asleep on the couch, his phone still glowing in his hand, his body slouched in the same position he used to hold her. Maya stood still for a moment, just watching him. Not with anger, not even sadness anymore. Just a quiet acceptance that things weren't the way they used to be. She walked into the kitchen to pour herself a glass of water, trying to calm the whirl of thoughts inside her. That's when she noticed Kabir, standing near the large window, his hands tucked in his pockets, watching the rain fall gently against the glass. The city looked softer through the raindrops, blurry and dreamlike, like the night itself. He turned when he heard her, offering a small, knowing smile. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked. Maya shook her head, wrapping her arms around herself. "Too much in my head," she said. Kabir didn't respond right away. He just stood there beside her, close but respectful, like he understood the space she needed. After a few quiet moments, he said, "You know, I wasn't supposed to come tonight. Arjun just called last minute, said he wanted me to meet you." Maya glanced at him. "I'm glad you did," she said before she could stop herself. The truth of it startled her. Kabir looked at her, really looked, and something passed between them. It wasn't lust or even romantic yearning. It was something quieter, more honest. Like two people recognizing something in each other they hadn't seen in a long time. "I didn't mean to come between you two," he said softly. His voice was steady, but his eyes showed conflict, like he was fighting something he didn't want to admit. "You didn't," Maya whispered, her voice barely there. But her heart beat faster, because she wasn't sure if that was true. Kabir stepped closer, not touching her, but close enough that she felt his warmth. I see you," he said, eyes locked on hers. "And I think you've forgotten what that feels like." The words sank deep. Maya blinked, and before she could stop herself, a tear slid down her cheek. She hadn't cried in months, not because she wasn't hurting, but because she didn't think anyone would notice if she did. Kabir noticed. He didn't move. He didn't try to hold her. But in that moment, his stillness felt more intimate than anything she'd known in a long time. "Kabir," she started, her voice breaking. But she didn't know what to say. She didn't know what she wanted, and that scared her. Kabir looked at her for one more long moment, then nodded, almost to himself, like he had decided something. Without another word, he turned and walked away, disappearing down the hallway to the guest room. The click of the door was soft, but it echoed in Maya's chest like thunder. She stood in the kitchen alone, the rain still tapping gently on the window, her thoughts spinning. She wasn't in love with Kabir, not yet. But she wasn't sure she was still in love with Arjun either, and that realization, quiet, heavy, and uninvited, settled deep inside her. Tonight hadn't been about flirting or betrayal. It had been about awakening. About remembering what it felt like to be seen, heard, and understood. As she walked slowly back into the living room, where Arjun still slept without a care, Maya knew one thing for certain. Something had shifted, and nothing would ever be quite the same again. The next morning felt heavier than it should have. Sunlight pushed through the curtains, soft and golden, but it didn't bring comfort, only quiet. Maya moved through the apartment like a ghost, her thoughts still tangled in the night before. Arjun was already rushing around, half-dressed and on another call, acting like everything was normal. He barely looked at her as he packed his laptop and grabbed his keys. "Thanks for the dinner last night," he said quickly. "And thanks again for coming, bro," he added to Kabir, who stood near the door with a small duffel bag slung over his shoulder. "I'll call you later, okay?" With a distracted kiss on Maya's cheek, more habit than affection, Arjun was gone. The door closed behind him, and just like that, the apartment was quiet again. Too quiet. Kabir hadn't said much all morning. He'd kept his distance, respectful as always, but Maya could feel something hanging in the air between them, unfinished, unspoken. She walked over to the door, her heart pounding a little faster with each step. He looked at her, his eyes tired, but steady. Neither of them said anything for a moment. It was like they both knew this would be the last conversation, and neither one of them wanted to start it. Finally, Kabir broke the silence. "I wasn't expecting any of this," he said gently. "I came here thinking I'd meet my friend's girlfriend, shake hands, have dinner, go home." He paused, his eyes holding hers. "But I didn't expect to feel something. And I know I shouldn't have. But I did." Maya swallowed hard, her chest tight. She didn't want to hear this, but she did. Because deep down, she had felt it too. "You didn't do anything wrong," she said softly. "You were just honest." Kabir looked away for a second, like he was gathering his thoughts, trying to decide whether to say what was really on his mind. "You deserve someone who looks at you like you matter," he said finally. "Someone who doesn't forget you're standing in the same room." The truth of it hit her like a wave. No anger, no blame, just truth. And sometimes that hurts more than anything else. She felt the tears rising, but she blinked them away. Not now. Not like this. Kabir reached for the door handle but hesitated. "I'm not asking you for anything, Maya," he said. "I'm not that guy. But I just wanted you to know. Someone saw you, really saw you, and I won't forget that." Then, with a quiet nod, he stepped out into the hallway and closed the door behind him. Maya stood there, frozen, staring at the door like it might open again. But it didn't. The silence pressed in around her. The apartment felt too big, too empty. She sank into the couch where Arjun had fallen asleep the night before, and for the first time in months she let herself cry. Not out of regret, but because something inside her had woken up. Kabir hadn't kissed her. He hadn't made promises, but he had offered something deeper, recognition. And now that she'd felt that, she couldn't go back to pretending everything was fine. Something had changed. Maybe not on the outside, not yet. But inside her, a door had opened. And even though she didn't know where it would lead, she knew one thing for sure. She couldn't unsee what she had seen, couldn't unfeel what she had felt. Sometimes, it's not the person you've loved for years who makes you feel alive again. It's the one who walks in quietly, stays just long, enough to show you the mirror, and then leaves, taking nothing but the truth with them.